On this episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, I welcome Jason Nachreiner to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Jason always knew he'd one day search for his birth parents. In his 50s, he made the call that would change everything. What followed was a heartwarming story of reconnection, identity, and the healing power of family. This will be a good one. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up wherever you are, whatever you are doing? I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of the great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow the podcast on Facebook at Survive and Thrive 8791, the podcast. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at TDecora 8791, as well as hitting me up on Facebook at Tim Decora. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button or like button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a message, leave me a comment. If you liked what you heard, if there's a topic or you know a guest who would love to tell their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us today. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects, such as, but not limited to, grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, divorce, success despite challenges, etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. Episode and guest intro, according to the internet. And the internet is always right. Correct, Jason?
Without a doubt, 100% of the time.
Without a doubt. And as you know...
Just like my wife.
Just like your wife. Just like my wife. I don't need Google,
no,
Alexa, or the internet.
No.
I have my wife. She's always right.
I trust.
Research indicates that the percentage of adopted children who actively search for their biological parents varies, but studies suggest that around 20 to 40% of adopted individuals engage in some form of search for their birth parents at some point in their lives. Today, I welcome Jason Nachreiner again, because we had some little issues here.
Technical difficulties. Two of the Buck and Honey's remote studios, raised in Madison, Wisconsin on the west side. Jason attended Edgewood High School and is a proud Crusader. After high school, Jason would take his talents to the University of Stevens Point, and finish at the University of Wisconsin Whitewater, where he would earn a degree in communications. After his college days were over, he would wear many hats in the work world, and he's currently self-employed, kind of a consultant of sorts. Today, I'm so glad you could join us, Jason Nachreiner. Thanks for having me. Means I get to wear a hat every day now.
What is up?
I mean, you are the one. You're the one going on the limb on this one. So
I'm going.
You're a risk taker, and I appreciate it.
I am taking a bona fide risk.
I'm happy to be here.
To have Mr. Excitement in my house. The topic we're going to talk about today is not a risk at all, but having Mr. Excitement in my basement, the rhyme guy. You used to be the rhyme guy.
I got a lot of nicknames.
Not a rap guy, but Rhyme, R-H-Y-M-E, is a printer, family-owned printing company, and they service all of your printing needs. And Jason and I had crossed paths in the Men's City League, and then he became our Rhyme guy, and so I would see him a lot doing maintenance and whatnot for a printer.
You were just a little slower than the average person. That's all it was.
I was slower than the average person.
You just need a little more hand-holding.
Who was supposed to get their print work done ahead of time. I usually did it the morning of.
No, stop.
Yes. And then we would move into the same neighborhood at about the same time. You were down and around the corner. 1999, we moved into the same neighborhood, and then we became much better friends when our friends moved into the house next to you, the Carsons.
Affectionately called the House of Twins.
The House of Twins.
Yes.
The mom
Shout out to the Carsons.
Yep. The mom was a twin, and then they had twins.
Yeah.
And then their son is going to be having twins.
Yeah. So did the two families that lived in that house before the Carsons. Yeah. Oh, they did.
Everybody had twins in that house. How ironic.
Must be in the something in the linoleum.
The linoleum, yeah, that's it.
Something in the wallpaper.
Something with that basement.
Something with that basement. Spring is around the corner, and I'm going to have you give us your top 3. You said you can't wait to chase a little white ball around.
Yeah, I'm a big guy. I like golfing.
Golfing. So give us your top 3. Give me your top 3 again.
So this time, I'm going to go with just the top 3. I won't get in the whole mix. But
Top
number
3.
1, shout out to my buddy Andy Bacon from UWSP, Go Pointers, over at U Ridge.
U Ridge. Yep. And my favorite hole we talked about is going
16.
over the tree at 16.
I don't got that kind of power.
I didn't either, but, when you swing really hard and the ball goes up,
Yeah.
I've had it go over that tree more times than I haven't.
Back in the days, I could. Not anymore.
Number 2,
Let's go with Hawks.
Hawks.
Yeah, let's go with the next door neighbors.
Next door neighbors. And we talked about this one as well. I love that course. It's nice. It's a nice track.
Yeah.
But if you're a guy like me with a big spray game, uncontrollable spray game, you got to have extra golf balls.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to lose some golf balls.
That's okay.
On that course. It's very nicely kept up. My sons were members there for a few years.
I like it. It's in really good shape. That's
And number 3.
So I'm going to change from my first answer to this one, and it's because of the memories and the good times had. We're going to go with the Oaks.
The Oaks.
Yeah, back in the days, we actually played like tag football in the parking lot at 3 a.m. and cards till dawn, and we were crazy wild horses back in the days when we had league out there and when we were all youthful and energetic.
The Oaks. I have not yet gone to the Oaks. I'm going to have to try that. Have you tried Door Creek? Just back over
Absolutely.
here. Those were some fine courses.
I got the golf Door Creek not that long ago.
Before we get to your story, I need to talk about the sponsor. Our sponsor, Buck and Honey's Restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's a great escape from cooking dinner with their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere. People keep coming back. With locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Wanakee, and Mount Horeb, most communities in the Dane County area can get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes. Here's that drum roll.
It sounds
Have
pretty good.
you
Microphones,
been?
man.
Yes. Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
The only one I haven't been to is Mount Horeb.
Only one you haven't been to is Mount Horeb.
My regulars, though, is Wanakee and Monona.
Yep, Wanakee is right in town there.
Yeah, it's
And
close. Convenient.
Close and convenient. Sun Prairie is the home office. And Monona, you can get there by boat, by car, and if you need to get there by air, we could probably arrange that.
It's like planes, trains, and automobiles.
Planes, trains, and automobiles, yes. What is your favorite food?
Oh, we already know this. You want to
know.
guess?
I
You want
mean-
me to say it out loud?
You don't have to say it out loud. We're good.
Here it comes. Firecracker shrimp.
Firecracker shrimp.
Amen.
And that comes in the pizza form, and it also comes in, it's
Yeah.
on that bed of that
I like the
lettuce.
boat.
The boat, yeah.
I like the firecracker
Canoe.
shrimp.
I would say more canoe.
Oh, we'll go with canoe then.
Canoe. And again, I have to always recommend the pizza.
Yeah.
I hope their pizza numbers are up since September, their pizza numbers should be up because of
this?
the outreach I have, the 7 followers and listeners that I have.
You
loyal.
got 7 more than I do. I got to say this, though. Special shout out to the coolest expo in Buck and Honey's lore, McKenna Nachreiner. Soon to be a waitress.
Soon to be righteous.
She's moving out.
Hostess with the mostest.
Moving out to the tables now. She's going big time.
And that's where she's going to make the
Chasing
money.
tips. She's going big.
On the podcast, our guests will follow the format for sharing their story like this. In segment 1, we talk about what was it like, your history, what happened to get you on the show. And in segment 2, we continue to talk about what happened and get into what it's like now. And then we also hear your 5 suggestions for thriving. And this is such a cool story, but we're going to talk about your history a little bit. So you grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and you grew up, what was life like? I think I know what was life like for you because you grew up in the 70s and early 80s.
I was totally an 80s kid, totally. You're a little older than me, don't
just
forget.
a smidge older than you.
You were born, what, are you born in the 60s?
I'm going to rattle off a couple of things to you.
Yeah.
Yes, late 60s.
Oh, boy.
Did you drink out of a water hose?
We all did.
Check. Did you ride a bike without a helmet?
100%.
Check.
To this day.
Did you have a dog that followed you around without a leash?
Back then, the dog never left the yard because she was chicken.
She was chicken, part chicken.
A little poodle.
Little poodle.
Back in the days.
Okay, what else did we do back then?
Ghost in the graveyard, dude.
Ghost in the graveyard. You left after breakfast and didn't return until the streetlights came on.
Yeah, you set fire to the gully. So you haven't burned part of the park. You haven't lived.
I burned part of my backyard, and the fire department had to be called.
Yeah, it happens. Baseball at the park.
You're going to have that.
All day. Sandlot style.
Yep, and you probably got in a few tussles, fights.
Skirmishes.
Nobody had to.
Dust ups.
You didn't say, I'm going to go home and tell my mom, or I'm going to go home and tell my dad.
No, things were handled on the playground.
Things got worked out, and we all grew up just fine.
I made it to this point. That's a win.
Tell our listeners about your family. Now, again, I have to get myself in this mental framework, but you and I have two other really good friends of mine that are adopted. And because of how adopted parents can be or not be, I don't know, because I'm not adopted. You can either love them, hate them, and everything in between. But because of what your adopted parents did and my other two good buddies, you're not in my life if they don't do what they did.
Okay.
And
happenstance and coincidence.
Happenstance and coincidence. And it's interesting how the world works. But if Tom and Sue don't adopt you because they try to have kids of their own, right?
Long time, 7 years they tried it.
And they adopt you, and then
boy,
boom,
did they get lucky.
And they got lucky. They won the lottery.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Some people would say they won the lottery. And then your sister is born 3 years after.
Yeah, the pressure's off, so it was easy at that point.
And I've heard that. Your own family, you have an amazing wife,
Absolutely.
Brenda.
Yeah, always on putt the coverage.
She is great.
Better half.
Yes, the better half. You out-punted the coverage,
100%.
as us Packer Badger football people would say. And you would agree, and I would agree. She's an amazing woman. And then you're a dodo. And
full-fledged card.
Dodo.
Carrying member.
For those of you that grew up when I grew up, if you were called dodo, you were considered to be not intelligent. I'm trying to be politically correct here. You were just dumb. And
nothing about me is PC for the record.
And dodo birds are not around because they were kind of dumb, I think. Dodo stands for dads. Oh, wait, write this down.
Oh.
Dads of daughters only.
Yeah.
D-O-D-O.
Dads of daughters only. Google it.
You have 3 amazing daughters. Rattle them off by name. I'm putting you on the spot.
So Lauren is the oldest. Graduating college.
Holy cow.
Right. You've been there. Next in line is McKenna.
Ken.
She's just about to head into pre-dental. Sophomore year. Going in, finishing sophomore year of college.
And then the baby.
The littlest. The youngest.
Brindley.
In a year, she's going to make us, what do they call us? We're empty nesters.
Empty. The nest will be empty.
She's going to empty nest us in a year from now, basically.
And all you'll have is a pet left.
Me and the boy. I got a boy dog just to help keep my sanity.
And what is his name again?
He's Riley. He's got his own Snap channel.
The Life of Riley.
Yeah, Life of Riley. He lives right off Easy Street, literally.
And he is seldom on a leash.
No, he doesn't do a leash.
And we found that out from some webpage in Wanakee where
I make the Facebook.
Been a part of.
Yeah, I make all the headlines for all the right reasons.
After high school, you bounced from UWSP to UW Whitewater. What were the lures that got you to those fine institutions?
Really didn't plan on going to SP, but I got an invite I couldn't say no to. And funny, right? If you don't go to SP, you never meet Brenda.
Really? That's where she went?
No.
Or she at least started there?
It's like you don't go, like, you know how you talk about these occurrences, right?
Yep.
So I go to SP and wind up living with a bunch of guys and having a really good, too much fun, fantastic times, but I got to go graduate. So I transferred on to Whitewater for my super senior years, both of them. And I become Jack Tripper, living with the girls, the twins.
The twins.
And the twins introduced me to Brenda.
Were the twins from Middleton as well?
No, they actually went to Memorial.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, but they all played softball with Brenda.
I was going to say that's one and alike because those two communities are really close.
Right.
Or those two schools, I should say.
Yeah. So they're, they played softball against one another, knew each other. And there we are playing summer league softball out at Kitts Corner. And if it wasn't for softball and going to Whitewater and all of that, then no Brenda.
And no Lauren. And no Ken.
No Dodo.
And no Brinley.
Who
and
knows
no
at that point?
Yes. By all indications. And you're here today.
Yeah, life's not so bad.
You had a great life.
It's been a fun run.
But something was pushing you, gnawing at you, chewing at you about your birth parents. And I don't think that's something that they all achieved, that they all at least feel that at some point. Who are my real parents? Why did they give me up? Where are they now? What are they doing? Finally, what was that like?
For me, it's a little different. I know a lot of people that have gone through exactly what you're talking about specifically. For me, my story was just less dramatic. For as long as I've known, I've been adopted. And our first take on all of this, I talked about like one of my early memories of life was when Jessica was born and going up to the hospital and seeing her in a little bassinet with a little Coke truck there as her present to me. And she won me over with that, I won't lie. Like the Coke truck ruled. But for even as long as I can remember that, right, early on, I knew that I was adopted. I didn't come from the hospital like that. Growing up all through school and then into college and into regular life, right, it was never something that loomed on me or anything like that. It was just always just part of my life. It was just average, every day, this is just the status quo, right? I didn't know any different, right? And our kind of some of the other conversations, the kids in school make your nicknames, right? When you're a kindergartner, you get your nickname. The kids in school, I can always remember saying, they're not your real parent. They are. I mean, I live at the house and they give me dinner and they make sure I go to school and get on the bus and all that stuff. So that's parent stuff, right? They take me to basketball. They take me to football. They take me to whatever. That's parent stuff. So they're real parents. So I never really had this like weird sense. I just knew that that's just the way it always was. I didn't know the why. It never really burned at me, probably because I was just too much of a kid, right?
You were living life.
I was having a blast. And I didn't really start thinking about it till I became a parent, right? Because at that moment, then everything changes. I talk to everybody who's had their first kid, and you just don't know anything, and then you have to learn it all. But at that point, it was like, wait a minute. Like, this is something they never had. Their experience is so much different. They tried, and they had that frustration and the stress. And then they kind of just picked me up out of a basket, right? Because I was like 6 weeks old. And for them, it was such a different process of becoming first-time parents than what I was going through. And so that made me think about the people that gave me up. My parents, my birth parents. And what they went through not getting that experience. So it was really, that's where it all really started.
So you have a couple of unique situations. You find out somewhere, or you always knew, but then you go through the kids being kids back then, and some people would say kind of mean, maybe trying to be mean or trying to be cute or just saying what it is.
Yeah, they just say what they think.
And then maybe it's gnawing at you a little bit, but you're being a kid. And then you have your own kids. And then you start to wonder, did your birth parents go through that with you, that excitement? And then life kind of takes over and you're doing the dad thing.
Yeah.
You're doing what you're supposed to do. And you become a great dad. You raise 3 amazing kids. And then finally in January, so we're going to fast forward a little bit. Finally, January 2024 rolls around.
I'm watching you follow the script.
Right, and you decide to locate your birth parents.
Yeah.
And what was that process like?
The process of getting to that point of the process of actually, like, what do you do when you want to find them? What do you want to talk about?
So you had
first?
You had to make that decision, and then you have to go somewhere. And
I should have asked you this before.
Yeah.
Like, this is a loop. Now I'm throwing them for a loop on this one. Like, it's at the point where, like, yeah, it's ready. It's time.
It's time. I'm going to go and do this.
It had been a while, actually. And now we're going off script.
That's okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
It really started when I was about 35. Because we had 3 kids by then. And we were in the thick of it, right? You have a kid that's in school, and you have kids all over. You have them all in this different range, right? And I'm like, that's when it really started to kick in.
Okay.
When they were getting a little bit older. But we were just never at the right spot mentally to push and to do that. There's so many other moving parts. My relationship with my adoptive parents was the biggest contributor to that, right? You just get a sense of timing, right? A gut feeling of when it's the right time and when it's not the right time. And we'll talk about all those reasons in the words I wrote down later on. But the right timing, I find just, I made a promise, a New Year's resolution to Brenda, said, this is the year. So last year, or 24, right? New Year's Eve of 23, 24, I said my New Year's resolution is to find them.
So you do the paperwork because you have some bandwidth now, I think. You got 2 kids that are in
Mental
college.
capacity,
You've got some mental capacity, some bandwidth, new toner in the printer machine, and you're ready to press forward.
Yeah, it's just being in the right spot in a lot of different ways.
So you fill the paperwork out.
January 12th.
And you don't know what's going to happen.
Because we've laughed about this, I have to say it, is that I paid my $50.
$50.
I paid my $50 to go find my birth parents. I also paid my $50 to, start my own company. You pay $50 to get an LLC, right? Mm-hmm. So it's funny how the state works in the $50 program.
Yeah.
For all these big things in life.
It cost $50.
$50. But it sure didn't take long.
So yeah, where were you when you got the news?
I was working out of the house, and I got a call when I was in a meeting from my case manager. She left a voice message, right? Call her back. Her voice message was pretty simple. I have an update. Give me a buzz. And she was that was it. So you don't know if it's a good update, if it's a bad update, if it's just, hey, I'm still working on it. So I call her back. I'm like, got your message. What's your update? I found him.
And what are we looking at for time? 2 weeks, 8 weeks?
This is about 3 weeks, 4 weeks later.
4 weeks.
Well,
Okay.
3 weeks later. Right? It was just before the middle of January when I filled it out, and it's just before the beginning of February. So just a couple of weeks, really. My wife knows all these dates. Brenda, I should have wrote this stuff down. I'm sorry, sweetie.
So you get the news. What's the first thought?
Wow.
Wow.
Leading into that, when I filled it out and you hit send and now you're like, okay, now it's gone. Now I have no control. It's just going to happen. And you don't know if it's going to be good news or bad news or no news. The mental state was just be ready for anything and don't overreact.
Try to keep an even keel about things.
That's it. It's like when we talk to the girls about the different things that happen going through life with boyfriends and dances and accidents with the car and crazy life things, right? It's just don't get overly. Don't get too excited. Don't get too down. Just try to take it in and understand and either enjoy the moment or learn from the moment, kind of a deal. So I was ready for either one of those.
I'm hearing this for the 3rd time. I heard it originally, and then I heard it again about half an hour
this
ago.
one better, by the way.
Yes, I heard it about a half an hour ago, and it still grasps a hold of me because you do something that I know nothing about, but it's still getting some news that, or I'm anticipating again.
Right.
That what did they say? What did you say? What were you thinking? How much time was that?
Well, it's weird, right? Because of back in the time that I was adopted, it's all closed. So parents really didn't have any rights. So I got literally a voice message and then a phone call conversation and then an email with all sorts of stuff, all sorts of documents and information about court records and interviews and all the stuff that my birth parents went through to put me up for adoption, along all the way through that spectrum of now Tom and Sue are there, right? Jill and Vern had me, and then Tom and Sue took me to their home. And all of that paper trail and all of the crazy details that I never knew for 50 years of my life, that was really weird.
And you open up this big time capsule, essentially.
That's all it was.
That's not buried in the backyard. It's at the Dane County Courthouse or some courthouse somewhere.
Yep.
And there's all these things that you finally get to touch and feel and see, and you're starting to read your history.
It's like opening presents on Christmas, truly. Because for me, it turned out great. It could have been horrible. It could have been demoralizing. It could have been, there's some people that it spins them the wrong way. I was lucky.
And some parents will say, yeah, I realize he's or she's looking for me, but we don't want any we don't want any contact. Let bygones be bygones.
Yeah, the one advice that my case manager, I say our case manager, so we're going to go with that. Our case manager was super cool, and her advice was literally spot on. And she said that no matter what, after they call you, after you fill out your thing, like, hey, we got your stuff, blah, blah, blah. And she says, listen, no matter what happens on the next phone call, you just got to take your time. You got to take it in and don't overreact. You really got to just take it in. And so when she called and she says, listen, I have some news. And I said, yeah, what is it? And she said, well, we know who your parents are and they would like to talk to you. And I'm wow. And the next line out of her mouth was, and oh, by the way, you have 2 full-blooded siblings. And I'm still stuck on, we found your parents and they would like to meet you. And I'm, wow, home run. And I didn't realize all that came along with 2 full-blooded siblings. And then she's paused and waited for me. And then she goes, you heard what I said, right? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, no, you have 2 sisters and your parents are still married today. And that, then we talked about how rare this is, how exciting it is, and the fact that they have been throughout the last 50 years waiting for this moment, basically. Back in 91, when I was going to be a senior, which was 18 years old, right? That's the first moment that I could go find them on my own legally, is when I turned 18. And so they filled out an affidavit, like, if he comes calling, please connect us. And here's family health history. Here's all this information. Here's our phone numbers. Here's where we live. Here's all of this. It was just a packet of info, right? And so they had been thinking about it. And then when I turned 18, they reached out knowing
and they're
all
like,
this.
Where is this dude?
Yeah, they're like, I wonder, you think back over the last, whatever it is, 15 months now, and you get the story from their perspective. Is like they always thought about it. Right? They're always wondering, what's he doing? Where's he at? Is he close? Is he in a different state? Is he in another part of the world? They just don't know. And at this point of life, what's he got going on? Is he married? Does he have kids? Is he all these things that they didn't get to experience that normal parents go through? And so it was really that first time she's like, okay, so here's the scoop. Do you want me to give him your number? And I said, yes. Or can I call him? She's like, yes, you can call him. So we did all that. So I wound up waiting a few days. Oh, Brenda, what day? I think I talked to our case manager on a Wednesday, and I called on a Friday. So we did we took a day to read all the stuff, because it was, oh man, I think it was 40-some pages, 50-some pages
Mounds
of stuff,
of paperwork.
Right? And so you read through that, and then you're like, you got to read it 4 or 5 times, right? I read it, Brenda reads it, I read it again, we talk about it.
Look at this. Look at this.
It's incredible.
Here, read this again.
All the details are insane. And in this case, right, the way that people grow up played a lot into my story, because a couple of Catholic kids in the 70s that wind up getting pregnant, that's usually, she literally, mom, went to the abortion clinic, had a conversation with somebody, and walked out of the room. That's how close it was, right? I made, stupid, horrible jokes because I'm not politically correct and all that, but and so the fact that she was she went through all the options, and the stories get even better, but we'll talk about that part of it later when we get into a little more detail. But leading up to that, and then you read the stuff, and then we did the Facebook stalking. We waited till Thursday night because we didn't want to look at anything. We just wanted to read it and take it in on Wednesday and then the Thursday. And Thursday night, we both sat down together with the laptop, and we're going through all the Facebook pages and seeing the pictures. My picture and the picture of my birth father is, we're not pretty dudes, but we're awfully similar. So it is what it is, right? Well, we still have wives that love us, so amen to that.
Amen to that. Because our listeners want to hear how this turns out, and I want to hear how it turns out again, we need to talk about our sponsor again.
Absolutely.
Buck and Honey's has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew since the beginning, with 4 locations in the Madison area. One is always near. People wonder why. Buck and Honey's. Owner Tom Anderson places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He is a mental health professional available for them should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, the Employee Assistance Program, but Buck and Honey's does. January 2024 is a monumental time in Jason Nachreiner's life when he decides to fill out the paperwork, locate and connect with his birth parents, and things move quickly. This is such a cool story, and I'm hearing it for the third time. Yeah, I might need some of the Kleenex here myself.
This one you're going to need to.
You'll have to stick around because this is such a cool story, so please stay tuned. Don't change that channel. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We'll be back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365 and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency Crisis Services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim DeCorna, riding shotgun today. Jason Nachreiner. The podcast is where I feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. With some help, Jason locates his birth parents after he starts the process in January of 2024. And I also have to remind everybody too, and you've kind of alluded to it, this isn't for everybody.
Oh.
Both from the adopted parents who gave a child up for adoption, nor is it for everybody who goes and finds their adopted birth parents or their birth parents.
Yeah.
So it's not for everybody, but if somebody is needing or looking for that extra push and wants, maybe is envisioning a heartwarming story, it might not happen, but in Jason's case, it did. And I'm so happy that it did. Jason is here today to share his story so that those that want that necessary push or help have at least somewhere to look to. And Jason's here to provide his story for that. So you fill out the application, which starts the process.
Yes, sir.
Curiosity, nervousness, and excitement is what you sent me. Did any of those lean towards what I would call anxiety? Because we have a mental health purpose to our podcast. Did it reach any anxiety like close to it at all?
So the unfiltered version is not at this moment, but leading up to this for the last, say, 10 years. The reason that I didn't do this or to push this when I was 35 or 40 or whatever it was, that I waited till I was 50 to do it, was because I was in a space mentally where it was stressful. It was like the collateral damage of how's this going to affect other people was a deterrent in pushing forward. And for years, literally a decade of conversations, it finally came down to a conversation with an absolute stranger. And it was a guy that, I met through a networking event or whatever it was, and it was a virtual meeting. And we were sitting there talking just about life and about kids, and it came up that I was adopted. And he goes, "No way, so am I." I'm like, "No kidding."
We tend to run into people or run in the same crowds that we've got some common denominators.
Well, his first question is, "So have you what and found your birth parents yet?" And I just shook my head. And I'm like, "I'll tell you what, I've been working through it, and it's been it's been a process. And he said, and it's like, it's one of those things where you listen and you hear it and you never forget the words. You never forget that sound kind of a thing. And he looked at me, and it's hard, when you're looking at a camera like this, to do the dead in the eye thing, but he nailed it. He did it. He said, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you don't do it, you'll never get the chance again. And if you don't do it, you'll always wonder. You'll always wonder. And that hit me. Like, that was the part that I'm like, just the way that he said it, a guy that had nothing vested in it. He's like, I did it, and it's the best thing I did. Two of my other friends, it was terrible for him. At one point, right, we were warned, like, listen, your scenario is brutal because they were both Catholic kids and they're shunned. Like, this is a big deal. Many times in this scenario where you have two Catholic kids that have gotten pregnant, they don't want to know you because you bring up all these feelings and all of this guilt and all of these, I've done something so wrong mentality because of what they were taught and told and reminded over years and years and years, that when it gets to this point that you're not going to get to meet them. Like, they don't want to go and dredge all that up and all those terrible feelings that they were turned into terrible people. And when you read my file, the stuff that we read, like, they treated my mother like shit. She was second rate. Like, the way that the counselors talked to her, like, you had to go, she went to a special place, to a special home facility in Milwaukee to have me because she couldn't be where she was growing up, right? For siblings and for classmates. Like, that just wasn't a thing. You got shipped out.
And that was not just from my experience and hearing stories. That was a common thing. Mm-hmm. And, maybe not so much just all Catholics. It could have been other denominations, or the school just said, you got to go.
You can't be here.
So you got to go to Georgia. You got to go to Texas. You got to go to Milwaukee and have your child, and then you're free to come back afterward.
Yeah. So the anxiety word and the feelings and all of that were really the lead up to the moment where I got to the point after this conversation. And it was the weirdest thing, right? It's a stranger. Like, you get all these trusted people like, yeah, you got to do it. Like, we get it, but we're all here for you, blah, blah, blah. And this one guy out of nowhere is like, don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Don't waste an opportunity. And that's where that was it. That was kind of the moment. And I went, okay, I'm going to do it. And fast forward, whatever it was, a couple of months or a few months, you get like, okay, this is going to be my New Year's resolution. And at that point, like, all the weight was off. Nervous, excited. Like, that was cautious, right? And that was what?
Curious.
It's so curious. Like, what are they going to look like? What are they going to say? What are they going to, like, oh my gosh. We kind of left off at where I called them.
So we left off where you did the stalking on Facebook. And for you younger people, the stalking wasn't, he wasn't going to get him or anything, but he just wanted to secretly look at him on Facebook. And I think everybody knows what that means, hopefully. You then make contact.
So I left them a voice message.
You did.
Friday I said, and so for all of you out there, my coping mechanism is humor. Like, he knows this, and people in the circle know this. But my coping mechanism is humor. And so in my records, I learned that my birth name is Aaron Lee, and my birth last name is LeCarry. So I'm ALL are my initials. I'm all, right? So now the joke is I'm all. And so I have now, the word gets around because I call my aunt and stuff. Like, also, my cousin calls me up. He's like, hey, Ron. Right now the jokes are flying on text on Thursday and Friday about me being Ron from the SNL skit. And I leave him this voice message. And at the end of my voice message, I said, yeah, just to let you know, this is Aaron Lee calling. And I hung up. Saturday morning, Jill, my birth mother, calls. And I see the number come up, and I already have it programmed in my phone, so I know it's her when she calls. So the whole house stops.
No one's breathing.
Nobody is breathing. I don't even think Riley was breathing. I think he was just like, oh, here we go.
Riley the dog.
And he knew. Like, everybody just kind of, and so there it was. And so I said hello.
Were you sitting down or standing?
I was standing. I got up because I do steps, and I pace, and I'm nervous, and I'm ridiculous. And so I said, hi, this is Jason, a.k.a. Aaron. is this mom. And it was immediate tears. Immediate tears. And so she's bawling. And I have it, turned up loud and off so Brenda can hear. And Brenda's sitting on the couch watching me go back and forth and back and forth, right? And so finally we start talking, and I said, I got to tell you, we were on Facebook yesterday, and I look like Dad. And everybody started laughing because he was on the other phone. I just didn't know it. So there's all three of us on the phone. And then there's laughing and crying and crying and laughing. And so then it was so simple talk, that first conversation. But we talked for about 90 minutes. It wasn't a flood of emotions. It was really because all I could think about was what our case manager kept saying. Take it easy. Take it slow. Take it in.
You're going downhill.
This is the moment you'll never get back.
Maybe ride the brake a little bit on the way down.
Yeah, because if you miss something, you're never going to get it back. So really, all I was really thinking about in the back of my mind is just relax and just listen and just laugh when we can and then cry the rest of the time kind of thing. If it gets to that point, right? Who knows what she's going to say? At this point, indications are obviously really strong because of
they replied within 3 weeks.
Yeah, what she talked to the case manager about, and then all of that, right? The back and the forth and the messages that went through our case manager to each other led us. We were on the road to success, kind of thing. And then the words are, just remember, the start is one thing, and there are a number of phases after that, and you need to relax on each of them. Because there has been success that dwindles at different intervals. And so you have to remember that just one thing of good news is not what it's about, right? You just need to continue to just relax and take it easy so that you don't get ahead of yourselves. And
I've heard a lot of people say a great coping mechanism is just to trust the process.
It's true.
Case.
It's true. We did really good. It wasn't like we called every single day, right? We tried to make it as normal as you could actually try to make it at that point. So we didn't talk for another week. And then we didn't meet in person for another week after that.
So you talk to them on the phone.
Yeah.
You leave a message. They call back. There's a standstill in time.
It's amazing.
And you talk for 90 minutes. And then 2 weeks later,
we meet.
You meet for the first time. And where did you meet?
We went to their house.
The listeners are going,
right. It was a gamble.
You're from Wanakee, basically Madison.
Yeah.
And they live where?
An hour away.
An hour away.
Yeah. So they're right there. Like I have a buddy, TJ. You probably know him. TJ, what's up? His parents, he went through the same thing. His parents are in California. It's more difficult for him for this process. For me, it's a piece of cake.
Get in the car.
I have a sibling that's an hour away. I have another one that's, out in California as well. But like most of the family is just right down the road. Case manager, make it public. Make it somewhere easy, out in the open. And I thought to myself, no, that's weird. I don't want to be held back. And I was okay with the risk. She was very concerned, our case manager was very concerned, don't get too deep too fast. Try to keep it public so you have control. You can leave when you need to. I can leave when I want anyways. Or even if we go to their place. And for them, it was more that was their safe place. And, you can kind of get that sense, we really want you to be here. It was really funny, again, more humor, but serious. When we got there, I knocked on the door. And they're like, what are you doing knocking on the door? This is your parents' house.
You knucklehead.
That's what it was. And we all laughed about it, right? And she said, at some point, I will be so excited for you if we get there. Because she was on the same page, our case manager. And everybody's embracing this slow down and relax about it. If we get there, we will be excited for you to just show up and walk in the house and be like, hey, we're here. Eventually, our hope is that you consider this kind of your home. even though you've never known this and all of this, at some point, we hope they're pointing to themselves, that you would look at this as one of your homes.
Anybody that's listening to this, and of course, the podcast is kind of originated in the Madison area, and there's a lot of people that know you just because of the sports and the being around and being who you are with a great dynamic personality. People are going to flip when they hear this if they don't know the situation and the story. And I'm so glad you're telling it to me again, because it's the third or the fourth time where you're not leaving anything out, but there's other things and bits and pieces that are going to come up, and the next time we grab coffee or whatever, you're going to say, I forgot to tell you about this part.
It's like anything else, right?
Yeah, it's like we won't get it until we watch the movie a third and fourth time. What is life like now?
I get that question a lot. The answer that people respond to the best, or that I feel like they understand right out of the gates the best, is this. Things are pretty normal now. We have normal conversations. We don't talk every day, but we talk about stuff, like life stuff. And that, the part for me that's personally gratifying is that just wasn't the type of relationship that I had with my adoptive parents after we got married and after we wound up having kids and all this later part of life. It was highly involved growing up and getting into and through college and through that. And then once we became married and life kind of kicked in, right, I was getting past all of that, where you kind of pull away at some levels.
You were living life like a normal person.
Yeah.
You had parents, but they let you go. You left the nest, and you went to college, and you got married, and you had kids, and you took care of them, and then you got to a point when you got to be about 50, where you had some open time, some open space in your head for
it was all about my
this.
head. It was all about my mental state, truly, because I had some things that I had to get through.
And sometimes in order to get through them, you got to go through them. And
I had to close some chapters out. And once I was able to really close those chapters out comfortably and confidently, I was able to move forward. But I wasn't able to until I got to that moment.
And when you know, and now you know.
Brenda was super supportive too. She gets it. And she understood. And she was super patient. She was more excited than I think anybody with all of this.
Well, I was excited just hearing it again, and I've heard it again.
You guys are
still,
fantastic. I love it.
It's
the part that is endearing to me is how everybody's responding to this. It's so fun for me and gratifying that everybody is so excited about it, right? That's a part that I didn't expect, I guess, truly. I never thought about it in that way. And, doing this, like, I would have never thought about that at all. As I go through and I continue to go through the process, and we laugh about nature versus nurture, and, how we hold our hands the same. My father and I, we like, it's, you do mannerisms, and it's very similar in a lot of ways, and it's eerie. It's eerie. Our personalities, we both are humor coping people, and so there's that. They're both teachers, by the way. So they're
great people.
Good lineage. But it's funny, as we've become normal, right? You have to get through this uncomfortable and just explore phase. It's like first date, second date, but at such a different level, right? Than trying to find somebody that you want to marry. It's like you're reconnecting with family that you never knew. And it was so much more, right, than anything else in my life. And so it's funny, as my father and I were talking one day, and this is earlier on, he's like, yeah, I was a coach, and I wound up, coaching a little stuff at track. And so we were just talking about some of the old stuff, right? Oh, yeah, we used to have this meet, and I had this thrower that, he's really in my life because I love coaching him, and he's now assistant coach for me, and he's been part of my life for all these years. And we were talking about old meets, like all the track meet, the big track meets back in the days, right? It turns out that
don't say it.
So one of my bigger races, kind of one of my big coming out races, like my sophomore year, was down in the Shell. It's kind of a high profile, a lot of people there, it was a big invitational. And I won a race and I finished second at a big race, and he was there. And
no clue though.
he had no idea. But he goes, and it is what it is. Like, there's no way he really remembers. But, down in your deep, he's like, there's been times where I've looked at different kids as I've been, coaching football and coaching track and going to these basketball games.
Could that?
And I wonder.
Could that be?
I wonder if that's my kid. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't have any real reason for asking myself this, but I just wonder if that's my kid. And at some point, there's a chance that he looked at me and wondered that. Just because we were in the same places at the same time so many times.
And that's what I was just going to remark on is don't say it. And you did. You were at the same track meet. Crazy.
We were at Monona Grove. We were at the Shell. We were in a bunch of big ones together.
This is where the subscribers, followers, and listeners take out the notebooks, pens, pencils, and jot some stuff down. These are Jason's 5 suggestions that allowed him to survive and thrive after the search for his birth parents.
Yeah.
And maybe before and after and whatever, but you may have already filled out a ton of notebook stuff for the stuff that Jason has shared, but it's fascinating, it's cool, it's heartwarming, it's whatever you want to say. It's been great so far. Here's what you shared, and I'm going to toss these in softball style because you said he played softball, so it's coming in underhand, and we're going to go limited arc. So you're going to be able to swing away. The first one, patience and time.
Yeah.
Go ahead and hit that.
We laugh about this at my house on a regular basis to this moment. My wife is famous for the double clap. Like, let's go, get it moving, get going. And I'm a big believer in slow and steady progress, which is what I preach to my clients now. The fact that you just have to take a moment to make sure that you're taking it in correctly. Listening to our case manager and seeing how mom and dad reacted to the pace and number one, enjoy the moment, right? Like having kids, just enjoy the moment once in a while because you blink and it's over with. And then you get grandkids, right? And it's even better.
It's even better.
But the whole thing about patience is that if you're not patient, then you're not aware. And then you miss things. And a lot of times you miss the good stuff. And I don't want to miss the good stuff.
Nobody does. Number 2, and we're going to go about 2 minutes on these.
Okay.
Number 2, manage expectations.
That's a big one. I mean, that's a big one in the business world, but if you translate that to your personal life, right? I went in to the whole process knowing that it could go south in a heartbeat. And honestly, it still can, right? Our case manager still said, listen, you're a year in now. You're not out of the woods. Like, there are things I've seen, and you get different family members involved now, and you have these other scenarios that come into play you don't expect, you don't plan for. And all of a sudden things spiral out of control. So you need to manage your expectations that you can't take anything for granted, and it's not an automatic, right? It's not a layup. Like, you got to put time and effort into it. In this case, you have to mentally be prepared for, if this happens, then how am I going to handle it?
You talked about the nurture and nature, and you have to nurture this experience. And you have to invest in it, and they do, and hopefully it continues to grow bigger and better. Mm-hmm. Number 3, reasons. Find the reasons.
Yeah, I was taught a long time ago the why behind the why, or the need behind the need. Right? Everybody has something that they want, but what's the reason why you want it?
The why.
The why. And it's the other why. It's that one deep, deep down, or it's the real high level one. Right? Either people have different perspectives on the why. And for me, like, why did I want to do that? It had to be the right reason. I didn't want to replace. I wasn't looking, Like, it wasn't because I was feeling that I had a hole in my life. My why ultimately was more for everybody else. It sounds corny, and it really is. Number one, my wife she was really curious. My daughters, all the same way. The girls all were really curious. And they thought, and they thought it'd be good for me to have that. I think it falls in the realm of, if you don't know, like, if you don't take the chance or the opportunity to go, no, you'll never know, and it could be a gap that you'll never get back. So don't waste your chances. For me, like, it was for them, right? I felt really, for them, I can't imagine sitting there waiting as long as they did and having their patience that they did and no control. And so I felt bad for them, and I wanted to not, I had to be in the right spot, but I wanted to make sure it was fast enough that they were able to benefit and really experience the fun of it.
Their patience was tested. They had to manage their expectations, etc. It's life lessons.
It's way harder for them. It was so much harder for them than it was for me.
I bet. Number 4, collateral damage.
Yeah, someone's going to get hurt along the way. There's nothing you can do about it. Someone's feelings are going to be hurt. Don't lie to yourself. Something's going to come up where it's not anything that you can control, because people are what they are. And everybody has freedom of thought, and they have different feelings. And so what I believe was, the best for me and things like that, then other people, right, take it completely the wrong way. They have different motives, or they feel like my motives weren't in line. Just being okay with, it goes back to, you can't keep everybody happy all the time. Mm-hmm. Just don't lie to yourself. Just know that there's going to be some sort of backlash, especially nowadays. We see it so often.
Trust the process.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Yeah, that's a really good one. It is proven to lead to success in this case.
And you listened to somebody who has had some experience seeing both sides. Your side is a success story, and then there's other sides where nothing happens.
Yeah. I mean, even if you go and you think about the conversation with the stranger, right? The guy who really kind of tipped the balance for me, same thing. You just got to trust it. You just got to trust the process and see what happens, because you just never know.
What a great episode. I'm so glad you could join the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew today. Your story and how you thrived after there weren't many setbacks. I mean, they came flooding right at you like a wave of positive things, and how you were able to keep those things all in check is amazing.
I think a lot of that is, like, I believe in karma, right? I believe in the pay it forward, and if you do good, good comes back, right? And my mental challenges and battles leading up to that point, I think is the karma is now on this side of it.
This is a story. Your story reminds us all that sometimes bad things happen to good people. In this case, it's the opposite. Good things has happened to good people. Yes, not a bad guy, not the complete opposite, but good things happen to a really good person.
Thanks for that one. That was good.
In my book. And despite what has happened throughout your life, you have survived and you have thrived. And I'm going to be interested in seeing how this all pans out over the next however many years. Our call to action, Jason Nachreiner just shared a story on what it's like to search for his birth parents. He always knew, and it was always in the back of his mind. He hopes the story will give those who are interested in finding their birth parents an extra little nudge. And his nudge came out of nowhere, a Zoom call, a business call. And he's darn glad that happened. Here are Jason's 5 suggestions that helped him survive and thrive. Number 1, patience and time. Number 2, manage expectations. Number 3, reasons, find the why.
Yeah.
Number 4, collateral damage. Somebody's going to get hurt, but in the end, I think you got to take care of yourself first. And number 5, trust the process. As we close another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, are there any final thoughts, Jason?
If you're wondering if you should do it, you do it.
That's
the biggest thing. If you're wondering if I should, you should.
Take the leap of faith and trust your body is when you jump in the deep end, you're going to be able to survive.
It could take some time, like it did for me, to get to that point of doing it. But as long as you have that focus, right? You have the patience, you understand the why, right? You get through those steps, trust the process piece. Trusting the process will get you to the point where you can go for it.
Amazing story. On our next episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, we will have another amazing guest in the Buck and Honey's remote studios who will share how they learn to survive and thrive. If you have a story to share or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.
Thanks, everybody.